The Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect is brought to you by Texel, your credit union, with locations in Temple, Belton, and Killeen. Visit us at texel.org.
May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life.
Howdy, I'm Sue Ellen Jackson, and this is Aware Central Texas Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect. You're going to want to stay with us for the next few minutes. We're going to be talking about something that we all need to pay attention to, and that is children in crime. I have with me today two lovely ladies. I have Cheryl Baird and I have Anita Morales. And Cheryl, tell us where you work and what you do.
I work with Jail Ministry. I'm the juvenile coordinator, and I work with the kids that are incarcerated in Bell County Juvenile Service Center. Restrans here. And we work with the kids that are aged from 10 to 16. We bring services to the center, mentoring programs, and so anyone that is arrested in this county as a juvenile will come into that facility.
10 years old. 10-year-olds can get arrested.
Yes, they can and do, unfortunately.
Anita, what do you do?
I'm the counselor at Bell County Alternative School, and we have a discipline side of our campus and a choice side of our campus. We service 5 districts, and we actually have 6th grade through 12th grade at the campus.
Wow. It just blows my mind that a 10-year-old could be arrested. You know, you hear that on the news occasionally in some faraway place that something bizarre happened, but that it's a routine thing is just, it's no good. Before the show started, Cheryl, we were talking and you had mentioned that there's a lot of gangs in our community and there's gangs all over the place. And this is something that we all need to pay attention to. We need to watch what our children are doing and where they're going. These kids that choose a life of crime, do we know why? What's happening that we have so many kids that are involved with gangs, that we have 10-year-olds that are actually going to juvenile jail and being charged with criminal crimes? What's happening in your opinion? What's happening?
Well, I think these at the very beginning of their school age became at-risk kids when the parents are incarcerated or the parents have drug and alcohol issues. And so the kids don't develop into the kind of relationships that we call norm with a trusting relationship. So they start looking around to see, and they're more on the streets. They may have more difficulty in school. They may not have supervision at all, and so they don't develop good decision-making skills. And so when someone comes along and says, hey, would you join me in this place or this arena, or how about doing this, immediately, without being able to think about the consequences of what they're doing, they react. And that, you know, a lot of kids have a great basis to make decisions on, but a lot of these kids don't. And so therefore, and some of them are just hungry, and some of them are just, they stay in the homes and they watch brothers and sisters while mom or dad are out, and they become resentful of that. And so when they do get out, they have all kinds of emotions that have been bottled up that come out, and so they do act out on these things. And depending on who we're with, they may really build them up according to those behaviors that are negative. And so they become kind of addicted to the negative behaviors and the results that come from it.
So it's like an adrenaline rush
It
to do
certainly is.
the
It can
crime.
be, yes, it is. Even as much as 8, 9, 10 years of age.
Oh, that's so tragic. And these kids, do they do they have any sense of, I'm breaking the law and that's something that I don't want to do in my community? Or is it more like, I'm breaking the law and that makes me strong and cool and smart and all the things that I want to be?
I think it's survival.
Really?
And it's all of the
Really?
above too.
Yeah.
Many times the parents are breaking the law, and that's the crime that we're talking about. It's familial crime. It can be they're smoking pot, or they're dealing
Right.
drugs, or they're So some of them have. It doesn't mean that much to them anymore, and some of it's exactly just survival.
And so that's their normal. That's
Right.
That is. That's right. Good.
It just blows me away, these kids and the parents. Are the parents owning their children taking a bad turn? Do they condone it? Where do the parents stand? You've mentioned that there is the situations where they're in their own criminal activity. They're maybe it's a single mom and she's working 2 jobs, and so the child that's choosing that crime is supposed to be babysitting. What are you seeing at the alternative school?
Well, we have students there that come to us for a variety of reasons. In our choice program, maybe they came because they needed that relationship. And they probably didn't have a relationship with someone at their home campus. And maybe they had a base level relationship, but they needed a deeper relationship. They needed someone who truly understood them without judging them based on who or what their parents have done.
So there's a lot of nurturing and support that goes on in your program.
Right.
I think I do it, and I've been around this population for many years, but we tend to automatically assume that if a child is in trouble with the law, that single parent, they're impoverished, there's addictions, there's criminal activity, and there is all of that. But what about the kids that have the good parents, that have the parents that are involved? Do you ever see that?
Oh, yes.
You do? What happens to those kids? Why did they? Was it one single bad choice that was a chain reaction? What do y'all think? I mean, what happens?
Well, I think some of it could be that they made a wrong choice down the road. Some of it sometimes is they're competing with their older brother or sister, and that was the good child, and I'm trying to make my own way, or maybe it's just that, and I think a lot of it is that they made a bad choice at this point in their life. And one of the things about our campus is that they're allowed to come there, and at our campus we do a lot of nurturing, a lot of we do two days of character development and a lot of one-on-one counseling with them. Also their academics. So I think that when you start that relationship with those kids and they really know you care, they're going to give you what it is you ask them to do. But if I approach those students with a, because I told you, because I'm the teacher, they immediately back down. They want that, that you respect them. They're really big on respect. You respect me, I'll respect you.
Right. Their teenagers are so precious. They're one of my favorite ages and favorite populations, I think, because they may have horrific situations, but they're emotionally elastic, and they're still able to heal and move on and start over, and we can all learn a lesson from them. Do you see that when you're working with these kids in the juvenile system, now these kids are behind bars, and they have either been charged with some kind of criminal thing, or they're going to be charged, or at least they think they might be charged. Where are the parents where you are?
Well, some of the parents, they are required to be at court, and that's set up with a probation officer and that sort of thing. But in the facility where the kids are, many of the parents visit, and many of the parents are learning how to parent that child.
Right.
And so That's not always the case. There's some kids that they don't see the parents the whole time they're incarcerated. But there's so many circumstances involved. When you come to us, you've already moved through many of the systems, and you're at a place, and our facility is the behavior modification. Well, if you take a group of juveniles who are arrested, you have to go back and look like, was there abuse in the family? What did these kids, when you have a kid that comes in and you're going to see behavioral problems, you're going to see emotional disorders, you're going to see anxiety levels that are very high. Well, those are typically the responses of a kid who's been raised in a neglectful or an abusive situation home. And so parents aren't necessarily going to be able to change all that, but you know, there's sometimes we have such good case workers and case managers that kind of bring home that, and we have great probation officers in this county, and I'm thankful for the work that they do with the juveniles. And so it's kind of it's a force that comes together, and I believe that it's a recovery force. And I believe that behavior modification is exactly when you're serving a 6-month sentence, and there has not, to my knowledge, been a 10-year-old serving that, but we have had 11 or 12-year-olds that have served that sentence, and their parents become aware of some of the things they can do, and they learn. Many of my kids are parents themselves, and so we like to believe that there is a change that's taking place in them that they never had before, and it's lessons learned.
That's encouraging. It really
I
is.
think so.
You know, kids being willing and able to learn. Do y'all think that the kids that do have supportive parents will succeed and get through this experience? They're more likely to. I'm guessing that that's probably the case. There are several kinds of abuse. There's neglect, there's the physical abuse, there's the sexual abuse, there's the emotional abuse. Guessing, we're not scientists here, we're not doing a research project, but just with your own eyes and ears and your own experience, what's the biggest type of abuse that brings children into criminal activity? Just right off the top of your head, what do you think?
Well, with boys, I would say it would be neglect and physical abuse. With girls, I would say it would be sexual abuse.
That's what I was going to say with girls also.
There is a difference now, but closely coming together.
Let's take a couple of minutes out and listen to a story from someone that has moved away from crime as a young person and wants to encourage others to do the same.
I travel the country dealing with troubled youth, and one reason I do it is because I was once one of those youth. Growing up on the East Coast, I can remember coming home from school and no one was there, and because no one was there, there was really nothing positive to do and no one to really guide me into what to do. Consequently, I got involved with a lot of risky behavior, selling drugs and so forth, carrying guns and things of that nature. The one thing that helped me, though, was sports. I got involved in sports, and when I got involved with sports, it took a lot of my free time. So I would suggest that all parents get their kids involved in something. Maybe it's not sports, maybe it's the band or choir, but get them involved in something to take up some of that free time. I know me being involved in a program, a sports program, again, it took me away from the environment that I was in. And oftentimes when I went back home, I was too tired to do anything other than eat and go to sleep. Now, summers are very challenging. I'd get in my little trouble, but as soon as school started again, I was back in sports and I was getting out of trouble. And so I say that because I want parents to know, specifically single parents to know, that you might be single and you may not be able to spend a lot of time with your child, and maybe you have to be at work when they're at home alone. And I think one thing that will be helpful is if you guided that child to some after-school activity, if you got that child involved with a group of organizations who could help that child to just do something with that time, find out their likes, find out their interests, and push them in the areas of their likes and interests. As I travel this country, I see so many young people who want to do right, but there's so much idle time, and idle time oftentimes falls in ill-advised behaviors. And so what we want to do is give them something to do with that idle time that will engage them. Find a nonprofit organization who needs volunteers. I mean, there are nonprofit organizations that always need someone to file and make copies and sweep floors and so forth. This will give your child an opportunity to give back to the community, to get involved with some adults who really care about them and can help shape, make, and mold them into the type of adult that you would be proud of presenting to society. And so again, you want to get them involved with nonprofit organizations, find organizations in their school that they can be a part of. Doing this will help make our kids what they can be. I firmly believe there is greatness in each and every child. But to get that greatness out of those children, it takes a collaboration. It takes a group effort of adults who really do care, really are concerned, who can relate to that child in such a way that they will pull that greatness out of them, getting them to see their gifts, their skills and abilities. Because I often say that, you know, when you realize that you are great, you become so much greater. When you realize that you do have gifts, talents, and abilities, you automatically become better because you start believing in yourself. So to those parents who have those at-risk kids and you might think, I don't know what to do with this kid, get him or her involved in an after-school activity or involved with a nonprofit organization.
We're talking about children in crime, and it's a problem. It's a problem in our country. And if you are a parent that is struggling with a child, I want to encourage you to listen closely to what we're talking about here. There's a reason. There are reasons why your children are choosing that. Don't blame your children. Try to understand, try to learn, examine yourself to see what's going on. You're the parent. Take responsibility of that. If you could tell a parent anything to encourage them to help their child redirect and not go in the direction of criminal activity, what would you tell them? How would you encourage a parent?
Well, the first thing is interaction with your child. You need to know where your child is at all times and who they're with. And you know, you need to pay attention that you are the parent. Right. And that your job is to build those trust relationships with your children so that they can make good decisions.
And by trust relationships, I think to build, it's important for teenagers to have trust, correct? That's a big deal with them. And if you're a parent and your child doesn't trust you, basically what that means is your child's not going to believe anything you say. So how can you be a role model for that child if they don't trust you? Well, how do you build that trust and how do you build that respect? I think, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you teach respect is you give it. And the way that you show your child that you respect them is when they're talking to you, listen, really listen. Close your mouth, open your ears, open your heart, and listen to your child. Listen to what they're saying. It's been my experience over the years that teenagers will really tell you what they need. Ask your child what they need, and you might be surprised because they will tell you. What are some other things that we can do?
Well, and I think that teenagers will tell you when they're ready also.
True.
There are those windows of opportunity when the students that I have, I will walk around and I'll say, watch their body language. Watch the way they the way they say it to you, and then I can pick up, or a parent can pick up exactly what it is when to approach that student or their child about what it is. Oh, I remember this morning you said that, you know, because sometimes we decide to pick at something when it's not really the right time.
Good point.
So we need
go
to
clean up your room right now.
Right.
But Mom, I need to talk to you about this. I don't want to hear it. Just go clean your room. Your room's a mess. You're a pig. Go clean it up. So then the curtain drops.
Right.
And
you don't want to listen to me anyway.
Right. And do the kids get hopeless?
Yes.
And then there's the criminal down the road across the street, next door, in the living room, that's ready to take that child in a different direction.
Right.
I hope you're hearing this, you parents. It's not that we think that you're bad parents. We understand that there is a cycle that goes from generation to generation to generation. And if you'll just stop for just a minute and listen to your children and self-evaluate. Parents that have addictions or criminal activity, what's that doing to a kid?
It makes them very angry.
Yeah.
Very angry.
Also tells them
It
it's
teaches
okay.
them how to respond to their own problems and that. So the first thing I would tell a parent in the situation that we're talking about with drug abuse, with child abuse and neglect, is you need to seek help for yourself first.
Exactly.
If you're a single mom, you need someone to walk beside you. You need somebody to be there that you can go to and ask for help, whether it's a church, Sunday school class, a chaplain, a neighbor, whoever it is. You need to start with yourself, because the more that you start working on the problems, whether you've been abused as a child,
Right.
And not all people that are abused as children continue that, but many do. And so sometimes it's just frustration about you can't live your life, or things that could have been, and you're just frustrated. And so everything that comes out of your mouth is one of the most detrimental things you can do is you're stupid, you're never going to amount to much.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You're just putting a curse down on a child's head.
You really
and
are.
that's usually the curse you're wearing yourself, that somebody
Exactly.
has just been in there and told you over and over again how worthless you are. So you start seeking, whether it's drugs or alcohol or company, that will make you feel better about yourself. So one of the most things that we can do is to start with that family unit and start looking at what is the first paramount thing that we can go in and help with. And usually it's to get the parent into a position, and the kids will see the work the parent's doing, and they become very respectful of that and grateful. And so they start responding in a different way.
Yes, they do. I've seen that. And
Have too.
the blaming thing, that's so hurtful. It doesn't do anything. It's like you mentioned, you know, when you blame a child for things, or when you tell them they're stupid, do you realize what you're doing when you tell your child that you're stupid or you're not going to amount to anything? You're literally putting a curse over their head. You are literally laying down the groundwork for the direction that they're going to go. Please, parents, think about what you're saying to your children, and try. No, don't try. Just do it. Listen to your kids. Really listen to them. When you, Anita, when you have families come in, like the mom and dad to visit or encourage with the kid, how does that work? Or do you even allow that in your program?
Oh yes. We usually, the intakes that we do are with a parent. And parents can call at any time and talk with myself or with the principal, and we do counsel them. I spoke with a mother just the other day. Her son was already on this path, and she said, I have no one to help me. I'm a single parent. What can I do? And I told her, get involved with the church, or start establishing that foundation with different churches, the Boy Scouts, sporting activities, but get involved. Get involved. Get your child involved. And I wanted to say something about what you said about the self-defeating words that we put on our students, on our kids, because I know. I had a young lady just the other day tell me, everybody thinks that I'm going to be a loser. Everybody tells me I'm going to be a loser. And I'm going to be, the worst thing that she said was her dad is incarcerated, and she said the worst thing that people tell me is that you're just going to be just like your dad. You're just like your dad. You're just like your dad.
Yeah.
And it was me telling her one-on-one, no, you are not. That is your choice, and we are not choosing that right now. But she's heard that so much, her thought was, why don't I just do it? Everybody thinks I'm going to do it anyway.
Right. She's given up.
She's given up.
But you know, I've heard, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I've had a therapist tell me that if a child has the worst circumstances you can imagine in their life, and they're growing up, and there's one person, just one person in their world that is positive and nurturing and reaffirming and encouraging, that child has like a 60 to 70%
Oh, yes.
better chance. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that's
Call
why
that grandmas.
relationships.
Yes.
That's why
yes.
relationships are so important, that we need to establish relationships with every student, every child that comes into our path. Just a good morning and say their name.
Right. And so when we see these kids with, you know, their pants are way past their rear ends, and they obviously got the bandana and they're all that, let's try not to judge them. Let's try to look at them with eyes of compassion. And if you are a parent out there and you are struggling with your child, and maybe you do have a history that's not stellar, I don't care where you live or where you are, you can call Aware Central Texas at 254-939-7582. And if you're not in our area, we will help you find the resources that you need to get help for your child. Cheryl, you had mentioned that you need to reach out and build support. I understand that that's not always that easy to do, but I want to encourage you, for the sake of your children, and if you love your children, if you really love your children, do this for them. Reach out and get help. Get help for your children, and if need be, get help for yourself. Because the good news is, the very good news is, if you live in a cycle, a generational cycle of abuse or neglect, it can be broken, and you can live a healthy, happy life. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life.
The Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect is brought to you by Texel, your credit union, with locations in Temple, Belton, and Killeen. Visit us at texel.org.